Welcome to Coming About with David Paragamian, the podcast that dives deep into the minds of leaders who have transformed their businesses and industries, paving the way for a better future. Here's Dave.
I'm back with Christian Bauman, a legend in the healthcare information and communication space. And we've talked about his career journey and all of the moments that helped make him the leader that he is today. And Christian, one of the things about your personal brand that I admire so much is you're truly a creative powerhouse. And it was awesome when you were on my team and you were out pitching for me. But then, of course, I led other agencies that competed against you. And I have to tell you, I dreaded walking into the lobby of a major pharma company knowing that you and your team had just been in there before, because I knew that meant that the bar for creative had just been set really high. So I'd love to talk a little bit about what makes for great creative storytelling. And maybe the place to start is, I think a lot of people think that in the healthcare industry, because we are so regulated, we cannot do empowering, powerful, wonderful storytelling. I know you're a storyteller and I've seen you do it. So can you talk a little bit about, in the health sector in general, how one goes about making great advertising and telling great creative stories?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I have to say it's one also that after 20 years, it's not a you, starts frustrating me. It frustrates me in the fact that I feel like as an industry, we almost, we beat ourselves up on this issue. And I think it's completely unfounded. This business does great work. We do great creative work. We do great work for our clients, and we do great motivating work. And we always have, right? Going back over the history of healthcare and pharmaceuticals and advertising. First off, we were one of the first sectors in advertising. A lot of people don't know that. The whole concept of a logo came out of pharmaceuticals, believe it or not. The industry in the 50s and the 60s was all staffed by the great New York artists of the time, and they did amazing work. And everyone in this industry, the creatives in this industry, are still doing amazing work. Everyone focuses on the challenges rather than the actual results that if you look back over 50, 60, 70 years that this sector has had, and they're pretty amazing. Now, look, having said that, FDA regulations, conservative clients, they do make for creative challenges. For me as a creative, honestly, that's where the satisfaction comes from. Wide open briefs are fun, no doubt about it, especially when you're younger, but anyone can do them. When there are no rules on a brief, it's easy to be creative. I'm sorry, there just is. It's super easy to do that. The smaller the box gets that we're asked to work in, the actually more challenging it becomes. And for me, I love that, right? I love that challenge is what gets me out of bed in the morning, because that's what keeps the job really, really super interesting. The other thing is this, if you're wired a certain way, and look, different creatives and other people, this is all departments, not just creative, account folks, planners, everything else. If you're wired a certain way, I don't think there's any other sector that requires as much strategic thinking. So if you like that, if you enjoy that, if you're wired for that, healthcare is a great place to be for that, because, it's not just about that moment where we're concepting, where we're making the creative. It's that year beforehand where we're setting up the strategic framework. And again, I find that very, very satisfying, challenging, and fun to do.
So Christian, you said something that I find fascinating, which is you described that creative brief having that smaller box, because there's channel markers that say, these are the regulatory issues, these are the legal issues. And you said it was exciting and thrilling to operate in that smaller box. And I'm wondering if some of that is connected to, as you said, you described it as the strategy work a year beforehand, but I'm also wondering if it's about your commitment to understanding the science. I think back to the homework that you did and how valuable that was for you as a creative. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question. I think it starts with, well, first off, I do, right? I love the science. If you didn't, I'm not sure that you could survive in the sector. You kind of have to love this, and you have to be able to figure it out. We're not the scientists. We're not doctors. Most of the time, we're not the patients, right? So you do have to learn it, and you do have to love it. But one of the first rules of advertising in any sector, we all know this, it's always been the case, is getting to know inside and out and falling in love with whatever sector you're in, right? I mean, guys who sell cars out in Detroit, right? Team Ford or whatever, they know those cars and trucks inside and out, right? If you're advertising pizza, you know exactly how Little John makes their pizzas and you love those pizzas. And you kind of have to. It's not any different in healthcare, right? We have to know our products inside and out. As it turns out, I love doing that. And again, I don't find it a compromise. I don't find that, there's that balance between scientific stuff and, or the creative side. I don't find that to be a compromise at all. One of the things I like about the sector that we work in with healthcare, we have a very high moral, ethical bar. We just do. That's a good thing to me. That's not a sacrifice. That's something that I enjoy. It makes you feel like you're working for something greater than yourself. And I don't want to get too, again, it's a business and we're there to support our clients, but you can walk out the door at the end of the day. I mean, Steve Jobs used to say, right? I mean, that was his sales pitch to Scully. Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life? Or you want to change the world? And I got to be honest with you, working in the healthcare sector, that is kind of really how we feel. If I wanted to go sell sugar water, I'd do that, but I like helping change the world. And I think that's what our clients are doing.
No, I totally agree. I tell our team here all the time that the Nobel Peace Prize Committee is not coming for us. However, we are playing a small part in the drama. The real hero is the physician, or the real hero is the patient who's battling the disease that's in that room talking to the physician. But if we've done something to help enable that conversation, motivate that conversation, give a nomenclature to that patient so that she can have a more informed conversation with her physician, understand her treatment plan better, then we've done in a small way something that really matters. So healthcare communications is healthcare, and we're part of that. And I know I hear you loud and clear. I find that inspiring. One of the things, Christian, that I know you've talked about recently is as we focus on health equity and the language that we use and the people that we use in our advertising, you famously said representation can't be created artificially. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously it's something that I think is, in a great way we're all thinking about now, which is awesome because, even like 10 years ago, some of us were thinking about it. And I think we're in a great place where the whole industry is thinking about it. You have to start somewhere. As an industry, I think we're just starting. It's a positive, though, that we are starting. And I think that's great. It's imperfect still, but we're getting there. I think what I meant by that about you can't create it artificially, what I mean by that is as we work through this, I'm convinced you have to solve it culturally, right? It's not about checking boxes. And, I'll give you an example. I observed once, it was a pitch. It was a pitch for sickle cell disease. I was aware of this pitch. It wasn't my organization. At the last second, they attached one African-American to the pitch because someone at the very last second realized they had an entirely white team. And then, oh, by the way, this is a largely Black disease, right? Now, on the one hand, I'm glad that they finally thought of that. And I'm glad that they sought out that representation and that thought. But, the other side of it is it's a little too late, right? Or here's one we've all seen a million times in this industry. One woman attached to the woman's healthcare product on an otherwise all-male team, right? That's changing, but it has to. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, too often, they've tried to solve for that by checking a box and all right, put one woman on that team or put one African-American on that team. That's not going to do it. You have to solve it culturally. You have to have an organization that is filled with that diversity so that as you're from the very beginning, not when it's too late, you are thinking with that diversity of thought and bringing that representation to the table.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, right? I mean, you can't fake it. Clients are smart and consumers are even smarter. And so that example of, oh my goodness, it's 48 hours before the pitch. Let's add someone else into the room of individuals going to the pitch. Yeah, that's a loser, right? I mean, you're using very charitable language. I'll use less charitable. That's a loser.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep it common. And Dave, as someone who's worked with me, my language does get a little salty sometimes from my Army experience. So I'll let you handle the salt, and I'll
let you be all the sunshine. But and of course I've seen the same thing, myself. But I really do believe you're right. It has to be authentic, right? It's so important. And in the same way, clients or even agencies will say, we really value creative, but you can slap that bumper sticker on a lot of things, but if it's not really truly in your DNA of who you are, and you really look for those insights, cherish that creativity, challenge the borders. Yes, the client asked for blue, but we're going to make sure that the client also sees green, yellow, and red before she sees blue.
Yes.
Like if it's not in your DNA to do those things, you can put the bumper sticker up that says, we love creativity, but it's not real, right?
You're absolutely right. Couldn't agree more.
So I guess maybe one of the last places that I wanted to go under this theme of, coming about is all about these career pivots. And you've certainly had them, right? From the Army to novelist to being a creative to being an agency president. I know that you recently stepped away from your most recent role. So what that means is there's probably another role coming. And without forcing you to share things that you may not be ready to share here, can you at least give the listener some hints on how are you making that decision? What type of thing might be next for you? Where might we find you next?
Yeah, no, it's great. And yeah, I'm having a heck of a good time right now. I'm doing some freelance consulting, helping out some former colleagues, which again fits within my DNA of I just get great joy out of helping friends. So I am having fun doing that. I think I probably will take. I'd like to have one more role doing what we do in a full-time way, and I'm circling around a couple of those now. But I think, as has been evidenced by the conversation we're having, I'm trying very hard to do it in a very thoughtful way, which I think is important. Look, 15, 20 years of my career, I feel like I was learning the professional stuff, right? That's what we all do when we're in our 30s, when we're in our early 40s, right? I was learning the creative. I was learning about clients. I was learning about organization. I was learning about finance. I feel like the past, I don't know, give or take 4 years, basically, especially like, COVID and beyond, for me has been much more about learning about the personal, about what makes me tick and what impact that has on my job, on my own success, the success for my clients and my own happiness, right? I mean, look, Dave, one of the things, I think that you know this as well. Once you get to the top, whatever the top is in your industry, your president or whatever you are, I look at it, you have three things you can do. One is quit, right? Hey, I made it, and you retire. Another one is that you hold on forever, but don't change, and you kind of stagnate, and you become one of those people who's still sitting at the top 15 years later, but you've never changed in any way, and people don't like working with you. Or the third thing is that you kind of reevaluate who you are. You reevaluate your priorities and you pivot accordingly. That pivot may be that you stay in that role and that's fine, but you've had that opportunity to reevaluate. What I've learned, and everybody is different in this. Everyone is, I think, driven obviously by different things. What I've learned about myself in the last few years is that two things are incredibly important for me to one, to be successful, and then also to be happy. And those two things are locked hand in hand. And the one is I have to be shoulder to shoulder with people whom I respect, people who are like-minded, people who are after a same goal, hopefully friends as well, or if not friends, future friends, right? That's important to me. And I have to have that or I'm not going to be successful. And the second thing is to pay it forward, to be able to help others. I mean, you've said it. I've had a very improbable career, and I've had a great run in a lot of ways. I've been very, to myself, unexpectedly successful in a lot of ways. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I think that some of those principles are real. And this is not bullpucky. I actually believe this. I think that one of the ways that if someone has been successful, you pay for that success by then paying it forward. And that's important to me. And that's going to certainly be one of the largest things that's important to me in whatever the last phase of my career is whatever my job is, I have to feel like I have the ability to help others get to their goals, whatever they are. Look, I always ask people who work for me, people whom I supervise or mentor, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? And Dave, I think you asked me that question once. And so I ask people that question all the time. And it's not meant in a condescending manner. It's meant literally as shorthand for, what are you trying to do? And let me help you get there, whatever it is. So for instance, if you're a creative and you're a copywriter, do you want to grow up to run the copy department? department? Do you want to grow up to run the creative department? Do you want to do what I did and actually grow up and run the entire agency? Do you want to quit this industry and go groom dogs? I mean, whatever it is that you want to do, my joy is helping you get there. Whatever I can do, even if it's in a small way to help you get there, it gives me great joy. And also it makes me a better business person and a better leader to be able to do that on a regular basis. So, thinking through that very intentionally has been a really important thing for me over the last couple of years, and how I will try to evaluate what it is that I'm going to do next.
Wow, that's a powerful answer. And the image that I was getting in my head is I was thinking about all the great campaigns that I've seen you do, many award-winning campaigns. But on the other side, the visual image was all of the people that I know that you've hired, mentored, promoted, helped push their careers along. And interestingly, as many as there were all these great campaign images on the left-hand side, there were more faces for me on the right. And I think that to me is the Christian Bauman legacy. And I hear you speaking to that very clearly, right? Which is about, yes, the awards are nice, the campaigns are great, but it's the people and the people with whom we did it. And I couldn't agree more. I totally believe that's your legacy. And I think it touches on something for the listener that is so important. And, I try and preach it here at this company. I say it to my own children. Culture is so important where you work. And it can't be much like the health equity and the diversity and the advertising that we said couldn't be faked. You can't fake culture either. One free pizza on a Friday afternoon is not culture. If you're tolerating the brilliant asshole, that, the free pizza on Friday isn't going to cover for it. And so I hear you loud and clear talking about how important it is to be in a place that validates you, that allows you to have those things. And I think that's great advice. I'm sure you give it to not only your professional colleagues, but to your own children.
Yeah, I try to. And thanks. It does mean a lot. And you're right. You cannot, as we were talking about before with diversity and DEI, you can't fake culture. You cannot fake culture. And right, pizza on Friday is not culture. I will tell you what culture is, to use the same metaphor, because there's a lot of in agency land when belts get tightened, which invariably has to happen, right? The joke is always no pepperoni on the pizzas, right? To me, great culture is when you're in that spot and you go, guys, no pepperoni on the pizzas, and everybody just shrugs and says, hey, that's fine. We're all still on the team, right? Because the culture around them is better. It's not about the pizza, right? It's about working with people that you love working with. You're all in it together. And look, we always say this, clients will come and go. They do, right? They absolutely do. Even great clients come and go, bad clients come and go. All this stuff comes and goes. Honestly, we'll even, turn the spotlight on you and I for a minute. Agency leaders come and go. The people that you work with, that's what really matters. And that's what makes up the culture. And that's why people stay in agencies or very quickly leave agencies.
Well, Christian, I guess just to pull the threads together, I want to thank you for spending time and sharing your wisdom with the listener. I also want to say that I know that you have successfully navigated some big pivots in your career, and I can't wait to see this next chapter because I know you're going to be equally as successful. And thank you so much for sharing your kindness and your wisdom with me and with the listener today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was my pleasure, Dave. It was a lot of fun, great conversation, and great connecting with you again. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome. And that wraps up another episode of Coming About. If you like the show, please take a minute to subscribe so you'll get notified of future episodes and catch up on the ones you may have missed. Also, if you have a moment, I'd love it if you'd be willing to leave us a review so other folks like yourself can learn about the show and find us. We'll see you next time on Coming About.
This has been Coming About. We hope these conversations have left you feeling empowered and ready to take your organization to the next level. To speak with Dave about your business transformation or to learn more about Health Monitor Network, go to healthmonitornetwork.com. And don't forget to check out his book, Coming About, How We Transformed a Major Media Company and the Lessons There for You. Available wherever books are sold. Coming About with David Paragamian is a production of Advantage Audio.